Hi there. Welcome back or welcome to Recovering Out Loud podcast, the show where we get real about mental health and addiction. I'm so glad you're here. If you or someone you love is struggling with drugs or alcohol, please reach out for help. Send me a message on all social media platforms at Recovering Out Loud Pod or by email at recoveringoutloudpod@gmail.com. You are no longer alone.
Listen, we're pretty much talking about like the darkest things. Like, what is there to not say?
Yeah. I mean, addiction, alcoholism, it's pretty dark, right? Like there was a lot of dark moments, and I have to remember that because I forget. I'm a good forgetter, you know?
How long have you been sober?
So I'm coming up on, well, I just had 6 months again.
Nice.
Yeah. After, I had 8 years, 7.5. And then I went back out, started with steroids, which oddly enough, everybody, like I post videos about it and stuff. And it's because that's what I started doing now. I don't know why, but I enjoy it. Helps one or two people here and there. So why not? And I have fun doing it.
Yeah.
People always ask me, they're like, I don't get it. Like, how does steroids equal relapse? And I, some people that aren't, like people in addiction would probably make the connection that over time, well, I'm going to try this. Now I'm going to try this. Now I'm going to try this.
Well, it's like fucking nasal sprays, you know? It's just everything is different. You're just trying to feel different, be different. Everything's...
Yeah. There's some kind of itch I need to scratch, right? Or some kind of God-sized hole, as they say, some kind of hole that I'm trying to fill. And for me, it was purely vanity. Do you need that?
No, it's fine.
Are you sure? Yeah.
Twitching.
Kaitlin, thank you so much for coming down. I appreciate it. Welcome to Recovering Out Loud. I was, referred to you by one of my mom's friends, but now she's becoming my friend. And she's a great woman, so I appreciate that. And I'm always looking for people to have on, and so thank you. Yeah, I know it was how was your day? It was a bit of a trek getting down here.
Yeah, it was really fun. My car was like, not today.
It's too hot for me.
Yeah, no, my battery. I drive a lot. My battery's like, we're done.
Yeah. And then so you pivoted, and I don't know, I find it funny that like things like that used to ruin my fucking week. You can swear, by the way. I don't know if you want, you can talk about drugs. We like talking about drugs on here. They used to like ruin my week, right? And it's like you send me a message, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna take an Uber, and sometimes it sounds so simple to a lot of people, but for me that was like not possible to like fix problems, right? It was like I had to drink or use drugs to like cope with the next stage in the day, right? And I feel like the only thing to do was drink, right? That was the only choice I had,
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into recovery, what life was like, and how did you get into recovery? What happened?
So I'm one of those lucky people where my dad was in the program, and he got sober when I was probably 5 years old. So I was always that kid that was kind of...
Sorry, I feel like it's my fault.
running around.
You're a hand talker like me.
Yeah, I'm like an Italian that's not Italian. I'm Jewish. So like I was exposed at a really young age, and I think it was super cool to be a part of that. Ruined my whole career because everyone's like, oh, go to this, go to a meeting, blah, blah, blah. But I would say I probably, qualified to get into recovery at about 12 years old. 15, I was already like full flight. I started using drugs after probably about 12. My parents split up, and it was just kind of like, I just had this like huge hole. Like, I don't know what to call it really, but I just felt like I was never good enough. If people accepted me, if people loved me, if people, I don't know, I just needed validation all the time, but it was never enough, right? Just like drugs, alcohol, it was never enough. 14 years old, I lost my virginity to rape, and my parents were amazing. They said, don't drink, don't do drugs, don't hang out with boys, they're bad, and don't go out after 9. I did all those things. So, I was like, I can't say anything because they're going to get mad. My dad's going to yell at me. My mom's going to be disappointed. So I just pushed it down and put a smile on my face and just went back to, the worst part is that I thought it was my fault because I did all of those things. And today I work with a lot of young women and boys who I get to share that with them. I get to share, the true definition of consent. Cause I don't know about you, but kindergarten, it was yes means yes and no means no. Yeah. And I was like, bro, I have said yes so many times, but I meant no, right? I just felt like I could not speak up for myself, or I couldn't stand my ground. I felt like, what if these people are going to get mad at me or they're not going to like me? I was crippled with fear and crippled with anxiety. So when I was about 15, I landed in my first treatment center. So my dad had told me, I'm going to take you on a birthday trip. It was July. My birthday's in September. And he's like, we're going to drive down to Kentucky and we're going to see we're going to hang out with some friends in Kentucky. And then we're going to go to Georgia. And then we're going to land in, Disney World in Florida. And I was like, yeah, all right. That seems pretty cool. So we drove down with my brother. Everyone's all like sad and upset. And I was like, we're going to Disney World. Like, this is amazing. Yeah. Why is everyone so sad? And he had to trick me because if he would have said, I'm taking you to a treatment center in the States, I would have bolted, right? So we get there, everyone's miserable. We end up in Clayton, Georgia, the bottom of the Appalachian Mountains. We stay the night. The next morning, my dad said, pack your bags. We're going to go in 5 minutes. And then 2 transporters come and pick me up. And I bolted across the freeway. And there's nothing. Like, you just look both sides and it's just flat, right? And I just remember feeling like, how could you do this to me? Like, what's even happening? I had no idea what was going on. I knew that what was happening in my life at that time because, addiction is very progressive, as we know. 14, 15 years old, I'm selling my body in Parkdale for this illness, right? I couldn't go a certain amount of time without putting something into my body. And it was awful. So I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't necessarily enjoy the people I was hanging out with, but I felt like you liked me better. I felt like you thought I was prettier. My idea of love was if you had sex with me, it meant you loved me. And if you didn't, there was something wrong with me. So all of my behaviors, the way that I was acting, the people I was hanging out with, I had no business hanging out with, but it all just felt better, If you were like, hey, Kaitlin, what do you want to do? I'd be like, I don't know. What do you want to do? Because again, God forbid I say, you know what, let's chill out and watch a horror movie. And you're like, that's stupid. Let's go out and do something fun. I was so crippled with fear on how people would view me and see me and judge me. Like, I was that kid in class that couldn't raise their hand because I was so scared of saying the wrong thing. I was so scared of looking stupid or looking dumb and everyone pointing at me and laughing. I just had no self-worth and no self-esteem. So, I get to this, it was like a wilderness detox program.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, pretty sure it's shut down now.
For good reason,
it's probably. Like, you're coming down and like you got bugs and you're twitching and itchy and all that stuff. Like, we were in the wilderness. So like, I'm like, are the spiders there? Are they not? Like, it was terrible. Yeah. But I was there for about 8 weeks. And again, I couldn't understand why I was there. Like, really. I knew that, okay, I'm using drugs. I'm 15. It's, but everybody I was hanging out with was doing that. So it felt normal. It felt better. Felt better than being alone. It felt better than, anything else because I wasn't getting what I needed otherwise. So it had to come from other people. And those were the people that were giving it to me. The drugs were giving it to me. So I ended up completing the 8-week program and they're like, yeah, you're graduating. This is great. And I was like, in my head thinking about, okay, I'm going to go back to my boyfriend. I'm going to dye my hair. It was just so superficial. And I just couldn't wait to get back home so I could start doing drugs again, start smoking cigarettes again, go back to these people. What did I miss? I have like the biggest FOMO ever, right? I'm like, I need to know what's going on at all times. And they're like, no, you're not going home. You're going to what do they call it? Like a therapeutic boarding school, like a residential treatment program in Utah. I dropped out of school in grade 10. I had no idea where Utah was. And so it was a 9 to 12 month program. I was there for 2 years and 9 months. So it was one of those programs that got shut down for abuse, the troubled teen centers. And it was awful. Like, I went in with a certain amount of trauma and I left with way more trauma. You know, again, like, I don't remember learning in school how to communicate, how to talk about feelings, you know, what's okay, what's not. Like, I don't remember learning these skills. So I just kind of created my own way of shutting down, right? Things got really hard. I would shut down. Things would be too painful. I'd go get high. And that's what happened. And I remember sitting in a therapy session with my dad and my therapist. And back then it was just speakerphone. And I had said, I want to kill myself. And I have no idea where that came from because I didn't know feelings. I don't think I learned my feelings until I got sober at 26. I thought if you smiled, you were happy. If you cried, you were sad. And you yelled, you were mad. But it's way more complex than that. And my therapist's reaction was to go into his bag and grab his gun and throw it at me and say, why don't you kill yourself?
Jesus Christ.
And my dad's on the phone. And when I told him what happened, you know, he said, when are you going to stop lying? Because my track record, right? I'm a liar. It just happens. And, you know, that's pretty out there. That's pretty wild. But I just remember in that moment feeling like, I don't even know where those words came from, but my life felt so hard that my solution was to kill myself, that my feelings are too strong. Things seem way too complex that I need to die. There's just got to be no other way. And then I was put on what was called reflection. So you weren't allowed to talk. You had to wear hospital scrubs, sit on the floor. We were on a number system. So number 1 is I have to go to the bathroom. Number 2 is I want a drink of water, etc. And I didn't talk for an entire year. I was forced to sit on the ground. They would put our mattress in the doorway so that they could watch us sleep at night. They would walk by and kick the mattress. Like, it was just it wasn't the best place. And I somehow graduated this program after almost 3 years of being there. So I was about 18 years old. I came home and I kind of felt different. Like, I felt like, okay, I've been sober. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I graduated high school there. I felt almost like maybe I could live my life. I got accepted into, at that time, Ryerson University for psychology, and I kind of felt smart, you know, like, look at me. I dropped out of school in grade 10, but now I'm accepted into university. And when I was a kid, before I had started kindergarten, I don't know why I remember this, I'd asked my dad, how do you make friends? And he said, you put your hand out and you introduce yourself. You say, hi, my name is Kaitlin. Do you want to be my friend? And so when I started university, I was like, fuck, you know, like, how do you make friends, right? Because I'm like back in Toronto. I have no friends anymore. I'm, again, like that scared little girl of not being able to raise her hand in a classroom of 30. I'm now in a classroom of 200. So, you know, the kids sitting around me, I was like, hey guys, how are you? Like, do you want to be my friend? Like, should we start a study group? And they just like dead ass looked me in the face and were like, we already have one.
Oh my God.
And I was like, boom, you know, like,
Thanks,
I just,
Dad.
that feeling of like abandonment and not being a part of, and just really feeling judged and like, I'm not good enough. Everything came flooding back. And, you know, I hadn't, I should just back up. So when I was in this center, they told me like, you know, don't talk to your mom. She's really toxic, really unhealthy. We smoked weed together a couple times when I was like 14, 15. Not the best thing, but like not the worst thing. My mother was, you know, she was unwell herself. She had a lot going on. And at that time, like, like, what do you do? Like, there wasn't help for her. You know, when I was 12, she tried to take her own life, and that was her solution. Again, she had 4 kids. My parents had divorced. She had a lot going on. And like, where do you reach out for help? Because like, we're just learning that today, you know, and we're going back 30 years ago. I know I'm only like 18 now, but that was
I thought you meant in the
slow.
story.
No.
I'm like, yeah, no, that makes
cut
sense.
that part out.
Oh, what a donkey.
No,
right
so
over my head.
now I just like totally effed where I was.
You're not 18?
Right? Double, unfortunately. So yeah, so I had told her, you know, like, you're unhealthy, I can't talk to you. And meanwhile, I was the one sitting in a residential treatment center at 16 years old.
Not much credibility there.
And you know what? She just looked at me and she said, I understand. And when I got out of the center, I remember I was like, it was like Christmas time. I was 19. My birthday's in September. So I remember calling her because I was like, why don't we talk? Like, I had been so brainwashed in this place. And so like, it just didn't even make sense. And I remember I called her and my aunt had actually called me because she missed the call. And she said, your mom just left. She's rushing home to come and call you. She was so excited that you called. And she called me and it was like fireworks went off. It was like I had my mom back, you know? And I always say that she wasn't the best mom, but she was the most amazing friend. I had everything I needed, everything I wanted. You know, she did the best with what she had. And I just think that, you know, she also needed help and she didn't know where to go. And she didn't, you know, I didn't know how to ask for help. And I feel like, you know, she also had that. I'm half my dad and half my mom. So, you know, and the first time that we got together, she had actually told me that she had cancer and 9 months later she passed away. So all of those feelings when I was younger, they just came flooding back. And again, I don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to tell you what's going on. I don't know how to ask for help. I don't know how to say, I'm in so much pain right now. Can you help me? Can you take me to a meeting? Like, you know what I mean? I didn't have those skills because in this center, we were just kind of locked up, you know? I had like sobered up. But aside from that, there were no new coping skills. So I remembered what worked, and that was drugs and alcohol. So, you know, I'm in university. I drop out because, you know, I had 5 courses and then I had 4 and then 3 and then 2 and then 1. And then I failed the only one that I was taking because, again, I didn't feel a part of. I felt like people were judging me. Nobody wanted to be my friend when I extended my hand and was brave and, you know, reached out. And so I ended up dropping out, and I was working in this French cafe and it was great. But again, I started drinking and, you know, we know how that goes, right? That job went, you know, turned into a cafe, and then it was a restaurant, and then it was a supper club, and then it was a bar, and then it was a nightclub, and then I'm working massage, and then I'm full blown doing sex work again because, you know, I have $1,000 a day habit. I can't go 5 minutes without putting something into my body. And like, what job can you work, right? I was a disaster. From 20 until 26, it was awful. You know, I was in one relationship after the next that just, you know, like I mentioned earlier, my idea of love is if you had sex with me, it meant that you loved me. And if you didn't, there was something wrong with me. You know, so I'm looking in all the wrong places, and I'm finding people that it didn't matter how you treated me. If you said, I love you, that filled me. That was enough for me. You know, and my addiction just skyrocketed. And, you know, I got engaged, I think I was about 21, and he was really abusive. You know, he used to beat the crap out of me, and then he would start to cry and be like, I'm so sorry. I love you. And I would say, oh, he's sorry. You know, he loves me, because I was so broken. I felt so empty inside that I needed you to tell me I was pretty. I needed you to tell me I was good enough, because I didn't know how to do those things for myself. So even though this person was abusing me physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it was still better than being alone. You know, and we'd get high, and then we'd forget about everything, and then it would run out, and then we'd fight, you know, and I went with his family on this camping trip way up north. And, you know, we were out looking for drugs, because that's what you do on a camping trip. You know, it was like a party campsite. I don't know.
They got to be here somewhere.
A Polish camping site. And, you know, we're like, we'll split up and we'll go to fucking find some dope,
like a
right?
movie.
Yeah. So I just remember, you know, we're drinking and, you know, we're getting pretty hammered. It's like the middle of the afternoon. And I asked these guys, and they're like, here's a drink. And I remember taking that drink, and then I don't remember anything after that. I remember waking up in a tent, and, not to go into detail, but there were several males doing things. And again, like, how did this happen? Yeah. I need something to make me feel better and look at the position that I'm in. And then I was knocked out again, and I came back, and I had no clothes on, and I was just like so ashamed and so scared, and I had no idea where I was. It was nighttime. I woke up, I got out of this tent, and I somehow found our tent, and he was sleeping. My fiance was just sleeping in the tent. And I remember like shaking him, waking him up. I'm like, I was just like all this stuff just happened, and I'm scared. And he beat me up so badly and said, called me terrible names. And I ended up in the hospital. And I just remember, a couple of days after that, I called my dad, and I'm like, I really need help. I went to go live with him. And I think it was maybe like 2 weeks, and I go back, right? Because we've sobered up. He's really sorry. We go to a meeting, like things calm down, and it's never going to happen again because he's sorry and he loves me. And it happened again, right? And it's so hard because even today, like I work with people like myself and different, and it's the same thing. And they say, what's wrong with me? Yeah. And I say, nothing. There's nothing wrong with you, It's just that feeling inside that you're never going to find someone else, or you're never good enough. You're never going to be good enough. I was afraid of, what if I'll never make it? I'm stupid. I'm not good enough. I have zero self-esteem and self-worth. Even today, I struggle, Like, it's not like those vulnerabilities just disappear and we're cured. We work on it, but I always thought there was something wrong with me, right? And so I put myself in that position, not on purpose, but, the next one comes around and the same thing happens. And, addiction doesn't really help. I was about 24 years old. We separated. He ended up leaving me. And 24 years old, I meet the love of my life. This guy who, I've said it a couple times already, but my idea of love is, if you had sex with me, it meant that you loved me. And if you didn't, there was something wrong with me. This person, I ended up in a trap house in Scarborough, trying to do what I had to do to get what I needed to get. And I have a smile on my face, and I'm, looking cute, but I'm dying. I look like I'm dying, but I feel like the smile just kind of shows you that I'm okay. Yeah. But inside, I can't wait till I can leave. I can't wait till I can get out of there so I can be alone. And this guy walks in, and he's like, takes one look at me, and he's like, what are you doing here? And he brings me into his room, and he starts talking to me. And he's making eye contact, and I'm so uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but certain people that make eye contact, I'm like, I didn't want to look at people. I didn't want you to look at me. I would talk, and I would look at the ground.
That was a hard thing to do,
right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I just remember him asking me all of these questions, and it just felt so amazing. I felt so special. Like, no one wanted to be around me. I didn't have my family in my life. I have 3 brothers and my dad, and they had all, cut me off because it was a lot, right? Like, what do you do? Like, I don't think, again, there's no handbook.
Yeah, there's no template, there's no handbook.
I was their only sister. I'm my dad's only daughter. And like, to see what's happening is a lot. So, we talk for a couple hours, and, he's giving me free drugs. He's a drug dealer, which was amazing, right? Like, jackpot. And he said, can I drive you home? And I was like, what? Like, you don't want anything from me? And then I started to feel really uncomfortable because I wasn't used to that. I was used to doing things I didn't want to do to get what I had to get. Yeah. And he gave it to me for free.
These transactions almost.
Yeah, exactly. And, he dropped me off at home, gave me his number, and he's like, call me anytime. And I was like, what just happened? And I went into work, and then I missed work, and then I got fired because you got to show up to keep your job. And I was a server at this time, and I was just high as a kite all the time. And I got fired. And so I called him, and, you know, we had seen each other for a couple weeks. So obviously, you know, we're in a relationship. And, you know,
good old addict
right?
relationship.
Yeah. We've dated twice. So you're going to move in.
Yeah.
But, you know, he introduced me to his family. I met his kid. You know, I met his friends. He would take me on his ride-alongs when he sold drugs. Like I felt part of the crew. I felt cool. I felt a part of, you know, and he like sussed out all of my vulnerabilities. He was like, what, you know, he's checking all the boxes. And I told him, like, you know, I just lost my job. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he says, you know what? We're going to go on a trip. I'm going to take you somewhere. And I don't know if you've been to Calgary in January, but it's not very fun.
No.
And I was like, we're going to go to the Bahamas. We're going to go, you know,
as long as it's not
California.
Disney World.
Yeah, fuck Disney World. Never. However, when I did graduate that treatment center, when I was 18, my friend and I, we graduated 2 days apart. We drove out to Disneyland.
Oh, nice.
We did a whole road trip.
That's
it was
awesome.
epic.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, fuck Disney World. So we go to Calgary. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Like,
Free trip.
Calgary, yeah.
Are there drugs?
Trip.
Are there going to be drugs there?
So
sure.
obviously. So he's like, you know, my friend is going to come. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I'd met him before. So I'm driving with these two guys. We're driving to Calgary. So we get pulled over in Marathon, Ontario. Middle of nowhere.
No idea where that is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like close to Manitoba. Like, it's close to the border. And we get pulled over. We're going like 20 kilometers in a BMW with no winter tires, with like weed smoke billowing out the window. So the officer's like, you know, asking routine questions. He takes like 2 steps backwards and he goes, you guys are under arrest. I'm so scared. Like, I was always that person that was afraid of law enforcement because I was like, no, like, you know, I don't want to get in trouble. Like, just so afraid. So anyways, you know, he takes the 2 and he puts them in the same car, and then he comes back and he starts talking to me. We get brought back to the station, and I was so afraid because I was like, I've never been in this situation. Like, what do I do? I'm in the middle of nowhere. I get really sick if I don't use. I don't know what's going to happen. And so he brings me in for questioning, and he's like, you know, who are these guys you're with? And I said, well, my boyfriend and his friend. And he said, what's your boyfriend's name? I said, Mikey. They were always Mikey, right? And he goes, that's not his name. And then he told me his name, and inside that feeling that I used to call my throw up feeling, right? Today I know it's fear, anxiety, just I'm scared.
Yeah.
I was shook, and I'm like, oh, okay, right? Smiled, just brushed it off like, oh, he gave me a fake name. Who cares? You know, and he said, they said that you were just some stripper they picked up who needed a ride. And so I'm now terrified. And anyways, his friend took the charges. I later found out that Mikey was wanted on a whole slew of charges, like kidnapping, guns, drug, like just some bad stuff. He was facing like being deported, but they let him go. Our legal system is, you know, it's Canada.
Good lawyer, you're good.
And so they let him go. They let us all go because his friend took the charges. Anyways, we get into his car, and he takes one look at me and he says, you're going to have to work for me now. Now, I realized today that was his, like, that's what he wanted the whole time. Like, that was obviously the objective. We're going to take her to Calgary. We're going to traffic her, whatever. But this worked in his favor, you know, because I said, you're right. It's my fault. He's like, the drugs, if you weren't an addict, like, I wouldn't have to bring drugs. He was a drug dealer, right? But I felt like, you're right, this is my fault. This is all my fault. I'll do whatever you want. And I said yes. And I talk a lot about consent because this was under manipulation. This was what he wanted the entire time. That was the purpose of the trip. So I said yes, not understanding that, right? And so when we got to Calgary...
Sorry, I was going to ask you about that. Can you explain consent a little bit better? Because I think people need to know, like, what does consent look like to you, and what doesn't it look like? So
there's like a lot of really cool videos on consent that I do a lot of like trainings and seminars and stuff in the community, and I always show a few different videos because they're really child friendly, and I think it's really simple. Like, if I was to say, let's go on a bike ride, and you're like, cool, like, what do you think of? You think like we're just going to go stroll down the street on our bicycles, but I take you up to the Rockies and it's crazy. Like, did you sign up for that?
Right.
No, because you're thinking like, oh, we're just going to go for a little bike ride, right? Like around the neighborhood. So like consent needs to be very clear. What am I saying yes to? And if that changes, you need to let me know. And then I have to provide consent again. You cannot be under the influence. You can't provide consent under the influence. If someone's manipulated you, that's dishonest, right? So that doesn't actually, it's not accurate consent. But we believe because I said yes, I consented and it's all my fault. Right. You know, if you're having sex with somebody and, you know, you're doing one thing and then they start to do something else and you say no, that means no, right? You have to ask every single time. Just because I slept with you yesterday doesn't mean I'm going to sleep with you today. Right. Consent needs to be clear, concise, and it has to be and coherent. Like, yes, not a, all right? Like, or
a movement or a
exactly.
gesture. Or, yeah.
And I think we get so afraid and uncomfortable that we're like, okay, right? Like, that's not consent. It's under manipulation or you're being pressured. No, like we need to be teaching our kids that it's okay to say no if you don't want to fucking go sit on Uncle Jack's lap or give, you know, your grandpa a kiss. If the kid's like, no, I'm uncomfortable. Okay, perfect. Don't force them to go do something they don't want to do. It's not fair. And I remember, right? Like, again, when I was younger, it's a different time than it is today. But it was like, no, you have to go and hug your aunt. You have to go and do this. And I was so uncomfortable. I wanted to throw up. I did not want to do that. We have to like, we have to allow our kids to actually say yes or no within reason. You know, if they're like, no, I don't want to eat my vegetables. Well, unfortunately, you're going to have to eat your vegetables. But, you know, I think that we take that power a lot and we make the decision for people. And that's not okay. We have to allow people to have their own power to make their own decisions. And we need to be teaching. It's like when we're in school, teaching that is the most important thing. It's okay to not be okay. Why? Because like, I don't need to give you an explanation why I'm having a bad day. I go into work sometimes and I'm like, I'm not feeling the greatest. I'm going to do my best, but I might need a little bit of support. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. I probably wouldn't have showed up, or I would have needed drugs or alcohol just to like get me out of the house or out of bed. But like we get so afraid to ask for that support or say, I'm actually not doing so great. Right? Like I'm just celebrated 10 years not that long ago. Nice. And I still say, I call, you know, some friends, whoever, my sponsor, whatever. And I'm like, I don't feel good. Right? I look in the mirror and I don't like what I see. That's pretty normal. Like I got a bucket load of trauma. It doesn't just like disappear and I'm like cured, you know? The same vulnerabilities that I had that made me more susceptible to becoming an addict, alcoholic, whatever, you know, to being in precarious situations, to being exploited and trafficked. Those vulnerabilities are still in me. They're still there. But I wake up, I look in the mirror and I say, okay, I don't like what I see. However, that's okay. I'm going to still go on with my day. I'm still going to show up to work. Or, you know what? If I have to take a day off, then all right, I take a day off. But I don't cope the same way because I want other people to see that it's actually all right to not be your best. You know, I think it's just, I don't like it. It's fake. And I wish people would speak up more so that we could get rid of that stigma that like, you know, I used to smile all the time when I was really depressed and I wanted to kill myself. I tried to take my own life when I was 26, right before I got sober. You know, because I went and I gave a police statement and I did all of those things. And I walked out of that police station and I felt so guilty. I was like, holy shit, I betrayed these people that took such good care of me. You know, I betrayed, like, I'm a rat. I'm like all of these things. And I just pushed it down inside and I swallowed those feelings and I put a smile on my face and I pretended like everything was okay. And I lasted 86 days sober and then I tried to kill myself. And I ended up in a 5-point restraint with 2 officers guarding my door. And all I could think about was it didn't work, right? Like it's pretty bad when you can't even kill yourself, you know? Like I should be dead. so many times. Like I'm on borrowed time right now, like plus tax.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
it was so sad. Like you wake up and I was dead and now I'm not. Like it's just so frustrating because those feelings, like I could have called my sponsor. I could have called a friend and been like, you know, everyone's like, how are you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm great. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But inside I'm dying. Inside I am too afraid to tell you that I'm not okay because I'm worried about what you're going to think about me. Because I went to treatment and I graduated the program and now I'm supposed to be okay. You know, I just went through a separation and it's, you know, it's terrible. It's really awful. But today, like I have the tools and the skills to like not pick up and be sad and allow myself that privilege to be sad. Because again, I'm on borrowed time and I know that today is a gift and it sucks and it's so cliche, but it's the truth. You know, I know that there's nothing that's going to be good that comes from me picking up or me, you know, going out and being trafficked again or whatever it is. Like, that's not who I am today. I believe that everything I went through wasn't for nothing. Yeah. I think, you know, it's literally how I got my job, how I do what I do today, how I support others. You know, I do a lot of service. And I just, yeah.
Yeah. I always say that too, is like, you never know when you might be of service to somebody else that's been through it. Right. Mm-hmm. I went to treatment with a guy that, you know, had really bad, you know, child molestation in his story. And I remember just like, he was so angry. And one day and I'm not saying that I fixed him or helped him or anything like that, but I mentioned that because there's a part in our literature that says like, nothing happens in God's world by mistake. And I was like, what if, man, like, what if one day you can help someone else that's been through it? Like, simple as that, right? Yep. And I saw something kind of shift in his eyes. He's like, I never thought of it that way, right? And that's not to say that it was warranted or that, you know, they're off the hook or anything like that. But forgiveness is a powerful thing.
Absolutely.
Right? And forgiveness is not for that person that hurt you. It's for yourself, right?
Absolutely.
I've learned. So now we're in Calgary, right? And what happens after that? Like,
it was the worst month of my life. You know, and kind of like earlier in my story when I shared, you know, I wasn't alone, I was being beat up, but I wasn't by myself. So I'm being forced to do things I didn't want to do. You know, I'm seeing clients around the clock.
This is with Mikey still, like the first, yeah. And,
you know, we're moving from hotel to hotel and I wanted to die again, you know, that feeling of how did this happen? Like everything was so good. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, if I do one good thing, it's going to go back to how it was in the beginning. If I am extra good today, he's going to tell me he loves me, everything's going to be fine, and I won't have to do this anymore. Or if I work so hard and make so much money for him, I won't have to do this anymore. I made it all about like me having to be better, and it wasn't my fault. Like, you know, I didn't actually consent to that, but I thought if I was better, it would get better. And if I was extra good and I treated him so nice, that he would say, I love you. And he did, right? Because he knew that's what I needed. So at the end of the day, he would say, I love you, and I'm so proud of you. And all I wanted was for someone to be proud of me because I was a disaster, you know? Again, I needed you to tell me I was pretty, and I needed you to tell me I was good enough because I couldn't do those things for myself. So we're there for about a month. It was awful. It was awful. There was a lot of abuse, a lot of just like manipulation, terrible situations. I remember telling him, you know, I need to get back. My mom's birthday is coming up. I need to see my family. And I hadn't really told him too much about that stuff. And I think I just like annoyed him to the point he was like, whatever, fine. We'll go back, but we're coming back here. And I said, absolutely. He kept all the money. I didn't keep anything. And we drove back, and I remember I had this like 2-bedroom apartment in Scarborough. It was empty. There was a foam mattress in the living room and like a sheet on the window. I had bags of clothes in the corner, but like I didn't have a bed. The rooms were empty. Everything, there was nothing. There was no plates, nothing. So we get back, he drops me off, and I think I had like a little laptop, or I don't know where I was at this time, but I was watching CP24 and I see his name and his face come up.
Oh, wow.
And he's wanted for kidnapping, drugs, like so many things. And I was like, I just went across the country with this guy, you know, like, holy crap. What do you think I did? I called him and I was like, I'll hide you in my apartment, right? Because again, if I do one more thing, he's going to love me again. If I do one more thing, he's going to be proud of me. If I do one more thing, it's going to go back to how it was in the beginning when he was really nice to me. And, you know, he would often speak in another language. So he was Persian, and he would speak and I wouldn't understand. And he knew that I felt left out, right? So he would do it on purpose because being a part of was so important to me. I wanted to fit in. I needed everyone to like me. 99 people could be like, I love Kaitlin. She's the coolest, which I am. I'm so cool. And there could be one person that's like, nah, not even I hate her, but like, nah, whatever.
Yeah.
And I am so focused on that one person that doesn't like me. What's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? What did I do? Is it something I did? Like it's so hard. I get so dead set and I focus on that one thing, but I have 99 people that just adore me, you know? And so he came to my apartment, and then he ended up turning himself in, and then he got released again. I don't get our legal system, but I didn't hear from him after that. He kind of went into hiding, I guess. And I had just started like posting my own ads on what was then Backpage, because I was like, well, I know what the trauma is. I know how to navigate this. I know what it's like. I know what to do. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to keep all my money. Again, I had a really bad drug habit, you know, and I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. Like, I just didn't know how. You know, my sponsor will often say, like, you could hook me up to a lie detector test and I would have passed. If you, like, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I'm never going to do that again. I did not want to do it anymore, but I had to. My feet were going to my dealer's house. My feet were going to the LCBO. Like,
before you even noticed.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I start posting my own ads, and you know, it's trauma, right? Like, it doesn't get better. It only gets worse. And it got worse. It got a lot worse. You know, I was held hostage in this guy's house, and it just went from bad to worse to worse to worse. And, you know, I had forgotten that I called Renaissance to get into treatment, because it's like a, you know, 5,000 day wait, because I had no money. So, you know, like, I'm broke. And they called me and they were like, hey, just reminding you of your bed date, September, whatever. And it was 2014. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot. And so I told this guy that I was with, who was like holding me hostage, and it was a terrible situation, a lot of abuse, a lot of just terrible, terrible stuff. And I was like, I got to go to treatment. Like, I got to go. And he's like, yep, you're really messed up. You got to go. I'll let you go. So he let me go to treatment, and I walked in, and they're like, you know, you got to be 72 hours sober, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like,
do you know where the fuck I just came from?
If I could get sober for 3 days, I wouldn't need to be here. Like, I wouldn't need to be here.
I know. I never understood
that's how bad I am.
Same.
And so I showed up, and I remember the woman answering the door, and she's like, you've been sober for 3 days? And I was like, yeah, you know, my eyes are going in different directions. I'm a little itchy, tweaky. And she goes, all right, come on in. She sits me down, and she's like, you know, when was the last time you used? And I said, 3 days ago. And she said, what did you use? And I was like, meth. And she's like, oh, you need 8 days. And I just remember thinking, I can't do this, you know? And I told her, if you let me leave, I'm going to die. And much like when I was in Utah, when I said I wanted to kill, I don't know where those words came from. I had no idea. I didn't want to be there. Who wants to be in treatment? It's terrible. But she said, okay. And she sent me to the detox down the street. I was there for 8 days, and it was awful. It was horrendous. My bones were hurting. I was through it. Like, it was just, I mean, you know, right?
Well,
everyone
opiates.
knows what withdrawal it is. So I didn't actually know that I was using heroin. I was more of a cocaine, meth. Like, I don't really talk about what I use because to me it's all the same, right? Like,
same shit, different show.
I didn't like the way I felt, so I used.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way I looked, I used. I didn't like the way I felt, I had to change it, whatever. You know, shopping, people, like, it's whatever it is, right?
Gambling, same. Yeah.
So I had to get my blood taken, and my doctor had actually called me and he's like, you know, I know that you were using this and this. He's like, but now you're using meth and heroin. And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea, because this person had been giving me these drugs, and again, without my consent, but, you know, I didn't know. And I was so sick and I had no idea why. I was 80 pounds. I'm like 5'8". I was about to die. And I, so I go through this 8-day detox that was terrible. And then I went to treatment and I completed the 21 days, and then I stayed 2 extra days because I didn't want to leave. I was like, please don't let me leave. Like, you got to let me stay here forever. I don't want to go home. And they're like, yeah, no, we need your bed. Like, you know, someone else is like you. They need this bed. So I graduated, I left, and that's when I went to the police station. So I had actually had this officer that was in my life I was a frequent flyer at 41 Division, local, and I would show up in all different forms. But I actually met this officer because something had happened. I woke up in a ditch. Someone found me in a ditch. I don't know what happened to this day. And the police officer that was signed was like, I'm not dealing with this girl. You take her. And the guy that said yes, his name is Wayne, Sergeant Howell. And he's still in my life today. That's awesome. You know, like, he just did a reading at one of my at my medallion. That's and awesome. It's so crazy, because if that officer had stayed on my case, like, I don't even know. Like, I remember Wayne calling me just to say hello, just to ask me, like, how are you? And I was like, I don't like cops. Like, cops are bad. Yeah. Like, I'm a drug addict. I'm doing all this stuff. We don't like cops. Yeah. But he saw through that. Like, he saw me as a human, as a human being, as a person. You know, he knew what I was doing, but he didn't judge me. He didn't arrest me. He didn't, you know, he would text me and say, have you eaten today? Do you have cigarettes? Like, he would just do check-ins. Like, it costs absolutely nothing to just ask someone how they're doing, you know, bring them a coffee, and we became friends. And he's actually the reason that I filed a police report. He knew everything that was going on. And so when I went in there and I was like, I want to press charges, he was like, all right. And he brought in the HT unit, so human trafficking unit, with Toronto Police. And I didn't even know. I thought I had a shitty boyfriend that made me do terrible things, and he was just bad. But that's not what happened, right? And it was then that they explained to me, like, you were trafficked. Wow. And I was like, I'm like, no, that doesn't happen here. Like, that happens, like, other countries. Third world countries. You know? And the reality is that it actually happens here. Like, for sure, you know someone else that has been trafficked. It happens in our backyards. It's happening next door. It's happening in all the hotels, all the motels, all the Airbnbs. Like, but at that time, I was like, I got my information from, like, Taken, you know, the movie Taken. That didn't look like that, right? I wasn't thrown into a van. I had this guy saying that I love you. And okay, he made me do bad things. But, you know, at the end of the day, he was there. You know, he was showing up for me. He was filling those basic needs. And after that, that's when I walked out of the police station and I felt like, you know, because we had such a trauma bond, me and my trafficker. I thought he was my boyfriend. I felt like I betrayed him. I felt like I let him down. And I held on to that. I didn't tell my sponsor. I didn't tell anyone in my life. And I lasted 86 days sober. And that's when I tried to take my own life. And it was really brutal. I think I was out. So that was, I don't even know when that was, January 2015. And then the last time I ever picked up was April 29th, 2015. Nice. And it, you know, I've had so many bottoms. I've overdosed. I've ended up in ditches, places that I don't even know, right? And it was simple. The guy, you know, my boyfriend at that time, went through my bag and was like, what is this? And I started to cry. And it wasn't I'll go to detox, I'll go to treatment, I'll go to a meeting, please don't leave me, right? It was a genuine, like, I can't stop. And he's like, I'm going to leave. And I'm like, I don't want you to leave, but what if I can't ever stop? Like I was so afraid. I just felt like I was a failure. And for whatever reason, we threw out my stuff, and April 30th, I called my sponsor. I don't know, I hadn't talked to her in so long, but you know, I called her and I was like, I need to go to a meeting. And I think I was in bed for probably like a month. I was so sick. I was so depressed. But I just like went in full force, you know, I did all the things that I was asked to do. Like my sponsor, my friends, my people could have been like, go do this, go stand in the middle of Dundas Square naked and whatever. And I would have done it because my way didn't work. And I tried a lot of ways, you know, I tried harm reduction. I tried everything. And it just didn't work. I had to just like give up and surrender. And it was so scary because I thought, what if people don't like me, right? What if I'm no fun? Like, how am I gonna talk? How am I gonna communicate with people if I'm not under the influence? Meanwhile, like I would show up to meetings and I was like smoking meth in the bathroom in the church just so I could share in the meeting, you know? And I was, everything changed. You know, I hear people say a lot, you know, I got sober and I got my life back. I got sober and I got a life. I made genuine friends. I got a job at Sally Beauty Supply and it was like the best time ever. You know, I was so happy. I was going to meetings every day. Like they used to call my car the druggy buggy because I would just throw all the newcomers in there. I'm like, come on, I'll pick you up. And then I dropped them all off. I was doing service left, right, and center because I didn't want to die. And I had to write out my day because if I had 5 minutes that were not accounted for, I would have went out, you know, like it was that bad. And I just did everything that my, you know, support system told me to do. And I got therapy because I'm that person that has to get therapy because my life was like, there's so much trauma and I still go to therapy, you know, like this stuff doesn't just go away.
It's a daily thing.
And I'm not like cured. I don't get cured, right? Like sometimes I start getting a little miserable and I start getting really depressed because, you know, things happen. I get triggered. I'm human. But I remind myself that that's okay, right? It's okay to be sad. It's okay to miss people. I've experienced a lot of loss. I've lost a lot of friends, family members to this disease. You know, I lost one of my best friends in a snowmobiling accident a few years ago. And like, I really can't come up with a reason to get high. Like there's nothing bad enough to me for me to go get high. My worst day is still better than my best day out there because I'm so privileged. Like I'm alive. Right? Like borrowed time is borrowed time. And I would rather, if I'm depressed, just be depressed and get through it than go get high and make me, you know, get something to make me feel better. Because it's not going to work. Right?
I have one problem and then I go and pick up and now I have two problems.
Exactly.
Right? And then many more after that. I find it really interesting that, you know, I can't stop thinking about your dad telling you to put your hand out and like say hi to people. As you were saying that, I was thinking like, that is kind of the key to getting sober in the beginning is like when you go into a meeting or a room full of people is to do that. Right. And that's like the hardest thing to do. I found is like, hey, I'm new. You know, people used to tell me to do that. And to your point, like I'm at a point now where I've relapsed, you know, I've relapsed a lot, but I've relapsed like there's three major ones that I can think of where I didn't expect it. It kind of came out of nowhere. Right. And not that it came out of nowhere, but it was like momental. I don't know what I'm trying to say. And to your point, it's like I've surrounded myself now this time around. So people always ask me, they're like, "What's different now? Like, what's different? You know, you had 8 years, you had another 3 months, you went to 3 treatment centers. What's different?" I find that I have to trick my brain into doing things I don't want to do. Right. This podcast was an example of that, where it's like, I constantly sit here with the most awesome, cool, and you are cool, by the way. I know you know that, but the most awesome people in recovery, right? And it's like, although this doesn't substitute my recovery program, it's like, it's another part of my life where I have 2 hours today where I'm not in Anthony's head. And to your point, like I have to account for every minute. Yeah, I had to do that too, where it's like any minute my addict brain gets a hold of me, I'm thinking about how I'm going to solve my problems with, you know, the quick way, right? Because I forget what happens after. I forget that I end up in trap houses. I forget, you know, and so I found that really interesting. You talk about working with a lot of people today that have been through. How do you help people break the cycle? Like that's like, how do you break that cycle? It seems like such a pattern thing, right?
So I just meet people where they're at, you know? It's like we complicate everything. On top of being an addict, I'm a Virgo. I'm like I make everything so difficult and complex, and instead of just letting it be how it is. So, you know, where I get to work, I'm meeting people in the immediate aftermath of a crime, and specifically human trafficking. And so they might still be being trafficked. They might be not being trafficked anymore. Maybe they're doing sex, whatever it is. I don't meet with them and say, you know what, you should probably stop doing drugs. If they're using, that's going to make you feel like, first of all, it's not my job. I couldn't control my own life. Why am I going to try and control yours? The same thing with the folks I sponsor, right? Like I am abstinent. I believe in harm reduction. I really do, personally, because I needed harm reduction to get to where I am today. And, you know, if I don't practice harm reduction with these folks, and people think, when I say harm reduction, people instantly go, needles, safe inject. Like, no, it's beyond that, right? So if I was to say, I'm not going to help you until you're sober, and then this person leaves, or I'm not going to help you until you're housed, right? And then they leave, like, how are they going to get there? Yeah. They don't have those tools yet, right? They're coming for help. They showed up. That is like the most difficult thing. Yeah. And they've already been through the worst. They've already been trafficked. They've already done whatever, right? So now they're here and they want that support. And so what I do and my coworkers do, like, that's what's going to help them, right? That's what's going to help decide, okay, am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? Yeah. So I just try to build rapport. I just try to say, like, yeah, listen, what do you want? What do you need from me? Like, you're my boss, right? Like, I'm not here to tell you what to do. You're the expert of your own life, not me. I can present some options and say, which one looks the best to you right now, right? Maybe we work towards getting you to a program, you know, maybe an outpatient program, whatever. You know, I help people just meet their basic needs. Like, it's a basic human right to have food, to have shelter, to have water, to have clothing, to have tampons. Like, these are things that we need, and it's a basic human right. Why do I get them and you shouldn't have them? So I'm not going to sit here and tell my clients and the folks that I work with and the people that I sponsor, this is how you have to do it or else, right? I choose to be abstinent today because that's what I need. Because of this way of working with people, and again, it's not for everyone. Everybody is different. The tough love, I don't believe in that. You know, I don't believe in tough love. I think love can solve everything. So me, like, shaking, like, right, like putting my hand to shake, I'm a hugger today. I think that, you know, we need connection, and we need, again, it's a basic human right to feel, right? And I work with so many people that have been sleeping on the street or that have nowhere to go, and they've had no human interaction. And sometimes they say, you know, can I have a hug? And I say, absolutely. Yeah. Right? Of course, I'll give you a hug. And, you know, not a lot of people do that, and that's fine. But that right there makes them feel like a human being, as they should. We don't realize the things that we take for granted. You know, I help all kinds of people, but I believe in, so I used to live in Newmarket, an example. I would take the GO train down to Union Station. And for a really long period of time, I had to not go to Union Station because it was such a trigger for me. I'm a very sensitive and emotional person, and I think it's probably one of my best qualities, but it's really painful sometimes because I see someone on the street and I feel it.
The empathy, right?
And it consumes my life. I'll sit with them and talk to them, male, female. Listen, we are all like, we all bleed blood. Like we all, you know, like I'm not going to go up and like give my number to all of these like newcomers and stuff. But I really believe in showing people that like kindness heals, love heals. So I sit with people and just have a conversation. And I'll, you know, there was one guy, he used to sit at a College Station and I'm like, do you have resources? Like, do you know where to get food? Like, do you know where the drop-in centers is? And he said, no. And I just wrote down some stuff and he said, thank you so much. No one's ever done this for me.
Wow.
Right? Like,
Simple.
what, I'm going to not do that because he's a man. You know, like, yes, I have to protect myself and whatever, but it just, I'm befuddled at how people act sometimes because you could even just walk by and smile, you know? So yeah, I believe in harm reduction because it's not my job to tell people what to do. It's my job to show up and be kind because that's what people did for me. You know, I got judged on the street. I got judged for my actions and behaviors and what I chose to do. And then, you know, what I was doing that I wasn't so much choosing to do anymore. People judged me. I don't judge people today. I love people. And I pray every single day that people get what I have plus tax, right? Because getting sober is not like, you don't just get sober. Like, I'm not worried today about relapsing on drugs or alcohol. I am worried about when I don't take care of myself, that my head goes to, I want to die. I don't want to get high. That I know that's not going to do anything for me. And maybe if I stop working like my program, whatever, that could change. I recognize that. Yeah. But for me, what's concerning is when I isolate myself and I want to kill myself. Yeah. That's what I have to work on every day, right? That like I wake up and I pray and it's very basic. I want to be of service. I want to be outside of myself. And anyways, I've gone on so many tangents, but ultimately at work, I just meet people where they're at. Yeah. You know, I do it in my personal life. I don't want to tell people what to do, right? Who am I?
Plus, we don't listen to that, right? No. Like, I'm not receptive to you telling me what to do. It's attraction, not promotion. It was one of my favorite sentences.
In every aspect of your life.
Yeah. You want what I have? Here's what I did.
Exactly.
You can do it or not do it. You know, it's up to you.
I was with a client the other day, and she just graduated from a treatment center. I was so excited. Yeah. She was so excited. We're sitting there, and it was actually it was the same day as my 10-year medallion. And, you know, we're talking and we're creating an amazing plan. And she's like, I just want to thank you so much for everything you've done. And I'm like, girl, you did this, right? Like, I just helped bridge these little connections. That's what we do. Right. And I was like, you know, I'm really proud of you. And she goes, yeah, I got this chip or whatever. And I was like, cool. And, you know, I showed her mine. And I don't always talk about my personal experience because I don't want to take it off of them. But there are moments where sharing and relating and showing that we have lived experience is really beneficial. And she looked at me and she said, you're 10 years sober? And I said, yeah. And she's like, oh my God. And she started to cry. And I was like, you know, at first I'm like, oh God, what's happening? Yeah. But she said, I can't believe that you're my worker, right? That this universe placed us together. Imagine if I told her when I first met her, this is what you have to do. It blows my mind. Yeah. You know, I've gone to my clients' medallions. I've been asked to share, you know, like it's so simple. It's so kind if we just stop talking and we just listen, right?
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kaitlin. That was awesome. I appreciate you. Why don't we close quickly with this? Because I'm going to get kicked out of here soon, but I want to close with this. If you could say something to someone struggling right now with, you know, consent or manufactured consent or manipulation or being sex trafficked even, or had just been, you know, abused, what would you say to that person?
There's not a lot that I can say. But I guess you're not alone, which sucks, you know, like, because it doesn't help. We feel alone. What I wish someone had said to me it wasn't words, right? It was consistency. So if there is people struggling, which there are, I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep waiting, because that's what people did for me, right? People say a lot of words. The words don't help.
Yeah.
They're like cool for a minute, but we need consistency. If someone is judging you, like, delete them from your life.
Yeah.
If you feel like, you know, you're not being treated the way that you should be treated, get rid of that person. And it's, oh my God, this question always throws me because there's a million things that you could say.
Yeah.
I just wanted someone to love me. You know, I wanted people to show up for me and be genuine. I remember hearing a speaker once say, because I came into this program really young. They said, you haven't done it yet, but I did it for you so that you don't have to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you did this, this, and this. Okay, cool. Well, I did this, this, and this so that you don't have to do that. And that just really resonated with me because I work with kids that are like 16, 17, 18 sometimes. And I'm like, I get it. I did that too. And they're like, wait, what? And we have a really good conversation. But if there are people that are really in a place where they need to hear words right now, I love you. You're not alone. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to say F you and get out of the situation you're in. It's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to not have the answer. It's okay to not know what's going on and be okay with that. Yeah. The only way that we change what's happening in the world as a whole is with community. We can't do it alone. I couldn't do it by myself. I still can't do it by myself. We need to work together. And if I don't know what to do, I'm going to call you and be like, hey, do you know what to do to help this person? My sponsee will call me and I'll be like, oh my God, I have no idea how to answer this question. Let me call you right back. Yeah. And I'll call my sponsor. Like, it's teamwork. Yeah. But people feel like they have to do it themselves and you're not alone. And I always close the same way when I speak. And I'm going to say it now because it feels right. If no one's told you they love you yet today, I do.
Love that. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. Please help us grow the channel and like, share, and subscribe for more content. The discussions and stories shared on this podcast are for informational and motivational purposes only. This content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, addiction treatment, or therapy. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please consult a licensed physician, addiction specialist, or mental health professional. You are no longer alone.